What's up, everybody? Wes Hockwitz here, Packers Preview, joined alongside my colleague at Packers.com, Mike Spofford, once again to preview Week 3 action between the Green Bay Packers and Tennessee Titans, a noon Central start time on Fox. Mike and I will be here for the next 10 to 15 minutes answering all of your questions on X, YouTube, Facebook, all those fun social media apps. We are going to jump into it, though, with the injury report, Michael. The thing everybody's been talking about, limited all week long. Jordan Love is questionable for this game. We also know Jordan Morgan has been ruled out with the shoulder injury. Matt LaFleur also mentioned that shoulder injury that Morgan's dealing with is the same shoulder that he dealt with during training camp. Additionally, Carrington Valentine with an ankle injury is doubtful for this one. But QB1, Mike, all eyes have been on him, both nationally, locally, and it will once again go up to game time 90 minutes beforehand.
Yeah, last week we were having this conversation and Love was questionable. This one, he is questionable again, but this feels very different because he was at practice all week on a limited basis, but at practice every day, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, as opposed to last week when he did not practice at all. And last week we got an update on Saturday that he had been downgraded to doubtful. As you said, this one sounds like it's going all the way up to game time. 90 minutes before kickoff, the Packers will turn in their inactive list to the officials, and it's a question of whether or not Jordan Love will be on that. If he's on that list, it's Malik Willis time again. If he's not on that list, he's back.
As someone already said on YouTube, with the username here, too old for this, did someone say limited? Yes, limited was the buzzword this week for the Green Bay Packers. But Michael, before we dive in, and again, I'll let those questions start to populate, submit those there. Our wonderful social media team will submit them over to me, and then I'll bounce them off Mike. But before we get into it, this is a very unique situation for the Packers because last week, Jordan Love did not practice at all. Malik Willis took at least a bulk of the first team reps. They did mention that maybe Sean Clifford took a few, but the plan was built around Willis. With Jordan Love, we're not sure exactly what he did do, team reps, not team reps, trying to build a game plan that is workable for both Malik Willis and potentially Jordan Love. How difficult do you think that is? I mean, that is something where the Packers, again, are not going to tip their hand, but you have to imagine they're planning for both of those contingencies.
Yeah, I believe they have been planning for both of those. The way I described it this week is I look at it as there's a segment of the game plan that will be, a lot of the running plays and some of the passing concepts that are going to be in the game plan regardless of who the quarterback is. Then I think with each quarterback, you have certain portions of the game plan tailored to them. So tailored individually, to either Jordan Love or to Malik Willis. So it's not really a matter, at least in my opinion, of devising two completely different game plans based on who the quarterback is. I think there is a segment of overlap with regard to the two different guys. Now, how to put a percentage on it or parse it that way, I really don't know how that would necessarily fall. But there will be things in the game plan for Malik Willis if he's taking snaps, and there are things in the game plan for Jordan Love that they wouldn't necessarily call if Malik Willis is in the game, that kind of thing.
Daniel on YouTube, can the Packers offense rush for 300 yards this game?
Well, you hit 260.
You got close.
So, yeah, why not 300, right?
This, you and I have been just dissecting it a lot, though, this week. This Titans defensive front is formidable. And when you add in now Sweat going into this equation, we already know what Jeffrey Simmons offers in terms of just a difference-making, dominating, bullish nose tackle in this league. Now you add Sweat in, who's going, 360 pounds?
Yeah.
6 foot, whatever. I mean, in terms of the middle of that defense, it's about as stout as you're going to find in the National Football League. Josh Jacobs didn't want to give any bulletin board material at his locker on Friday when he was asked about some of the comments about you're not going to be able to run against the Tennessee Titans. But you can tell naturally there is that competitiveness and that the Packers are embracing this challenge. The one good thing is it sounds like Josh Jacobs came out of that game just fine on Sunday against the Indianapolis Colts. Despite the 32 catches, he mentioned his legs were a little heavy on Wednesday, but if he needs to run again, He's ready to do that.
Yeah, he is ready to do that. I mean, it's something. There hadn't been a Packers running back with 30-plus carries in a game since Ryan Grant back in 2008. Josh Jacobs broke kind of a long string there. Interestingly, though, when Ryan Grant did that in 2008, he had ended up with 30-plus carries in back-to-back games in October of that year. So we will see what happens. Yes, the Titans are going to be difficult to run against. I believe I saw a statistic that in the first halves of their first 2 games, they have only given up something like 33 rushing yards on 16 carries.
Correct.
Basically 2 yards a carry in the first half. But here's the thing, you have to find a way to stick with it. And I think when you turn on the film against the Jets last week for the Titans, the Jets did have some success as the game wore on, pushing things to the edges and not necessarily trying to take on Simmons and Sweat in the middle, but pushing things to the edges and getting some rushing yards that way. And we'll see if the Packers can maybe have some success in the same fashion.
Tom Grassi on YouTube, Wes Anspaugh for the HOF. Tom, I love you, buddy. Thank you for joining us. The best in the business. Still NFL reigning fan of the year.
Reigning fan of the year till they pick another one.
Yep. Maybe I'll go back to back. You never know. We'll see.
Why not?
I'd be up for that. All right, this question's from Joseph on YouTube. Do you expect the D-line to get more pressures and sacks this week? Mike, I wrote about it this week. The fact is the Packers, they've had to be pretty selfless in a lot of different capacities, whether it's the receivers having to emphasize their blocking, whether it's the offensive line having to road grade the way they did for 53 carries last week, and the defensive front having to be extra disciplined when they were rushing both Jalen Hurts and then Anthony Richardson.
Right.
Will Levis still offers a threat with his feet, not to the same degree as those other two.
Agreed.
So all of that being said, I would expect that he has an opportunity, that defensive front has an opportunity to get after it a little bit more, but you can't be reckless.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the word that Jeff Hafley used on Thursday when I posed that question to him, and he says, yes, he would like to be more aggressive, but you can't cross that line into being reckless. This is actually the topic that I'm writing about for my One Last Look column tomorrow. So for those of you who are listening, watching this, you get a little bit of a preview here. I think this situation with Will Levis is very interesting when it comes to how to rush him, because the Tennessee coaches are trying to pound it into this young quarterback to not take chances, to not try to be Superman, to not try to force things. Well, that might mean, and I say might because I don't know, it might mean that Will Levis is going to be even more inclined to just tuck and run tomorrow. If he's not seeing something early when he drops back in the pocket, and he's not seeing anything with his early reads, and in his mind it's like, I can't force it, he might just run. And I think the Packers have to be ready for that. You have to be aware of that. So no, he's not the dual threat quarterback in the sense of a Jalen Hurts or an Anthony Richardson, where there are going to potentially be a bunch of even designed runs for the quarterback you have to be ready for. But Will Levis might just take off. He is already, in the first 2 games this season, he has had, I believe it's at least 3 scrambles out of the pocket where he's gained 9 or more yards, between 9 and 20 yards on 3 scrambles. So I think the Packers will get after him a little bit more. And you want to try to do that because of his penchant for turning the ball over. You want to get pressure on him. You want to try to force the issue a little bit, but you also have to be aware of his mindset a little bit, I think.
Jay Franz on Facebook. Love is good. Back at 100% would be better for the Pack and his overall health. Malik is fresh and hungry. This is another thing the Green Bay Packers have to consider. Now, I was talking to our colleague and friend, Matt Schneidman, beforehand, and really from a storyline perspective, any of these things work because you have either Jordan Love coming back and what that could potentially mean for the Packers going up against statistically the NFL's best defense for the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yep.
Or you have Malik Willis going back to Tennessee, the team that drafted him 2.5 years ago and now traded him to Green Bay before the start of the regular season. What I loved about Willis is I think it speaks volumes that in 19 days he put himself in a position to know the calls, to know the plays, to not get tripped up on what the motions were going to be with as much kind of window dressing as the Packers kind of had to throw against the Indianapolis Colts. That was all critical to them having that start and being able to jump on them as fast as they could.
Yeah.
If it's Will Levis, though, you're going to have if it is Malik Willis, you're going to have to make some adjustments against the Tennessee Titans. That decision that Green Bay has to make has so many layers to it, and it's going to be fascinating to watch throughout the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're not going to know all the conversations going on behind the scenes and how this is all going to go. But you and I have both been doing this long enough, Wes, that the Packers don't take risks with their players. And we talked about this when we were sitting here last Friday with regard to the medical staff making decisions, making those clearance decisions in the best interest of the players. And so if Jordan Love is cleared, I expect him to play.
Yeah.
If the medical staff says no, he's not cleared, then it's Malik Willis. So we'll just have to see. But Willis will certainly, I think, be just another step more comfortable in running the Packers offense, and maybe the concepts and whatnot get expanded a little bit because he's already got that one game under his belt.
A few more minutes here on Packers Preview, again brought to you by Microsoft Surface. He's Mike Spofford. I'm Wes Hockwitz. Again, if you want to submit your questions on X, YouTube, and Facebook, you can do that. Our social media team is funneling those over to me right now as we speak. And let's try to race through a few of these because there's kind of been populating here in my device. Okay, Tito on X, do you think Emmanuel Wilson, will have double-digit carries? If the Packers run the ball 53 times, they very well could give double-digit carries to Emmanuel Wilson. But I think the bigger thing that both Matt LaFleur and Ben Simmons, the Packers' longtime running backs coach, they both talked about their comfort level with him if he needs to be the RB2, which by all accounts he's going to have to be for at least the next 4 games now that Marshawn Lloyd has been placed on injured reserve.
Right.
What I like about Wilson is we saw him in pass pro more in that game against the Colts than I think I've ever seen him in there. When you look at what his snaps were last year as a rookie, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic here, but if Emmanuel Wilson was on the field last year, in most cases he was getting the football.
Right.
This game, I thought he actually stood up to the blitz well. He has the frame for it. He's a big kid, I think a little high in the 220s. But I think more importantly, he has the confidence now. And the Packers have put a lot of time and effort in him, and they feel comfortable if that's the guy they got to roll with, that he can get the job done.
Yeah, I mean he's taken major leaps and bounds in terms of his pass protection with what we've heard from the coaches in terms of their confidence in him. And we've seen it over the years, Wes, that's in terms of being an every down back in the NFL. That is the biggest step that running backs need to take. It's not about carrying the football or catching passes out of the backfield. It's about that trust to be able to protect the quarterback, to pick up the blitz when that is your responsibility, when that is what you're called on to do. And Emmanuel Wilson has gone from being a rookie who is learning that to now a second-year player who has gotten some of those fundamentals down and is able to execute in those situations.
All right, a couple more questions here. This one is from Mark on Facebook. So how do you think the offensive line is going to handle the Titans' defensive line? Well, I will say this. I think this unit and how it's come together has been pretty impressive to watch. Now, every single starter was basically at some point on the injury report this week. I think maybe except without Sean Ryan. But Jordan Morgan, again, is out of this game. So it's either going to have to be Ryan or potentially maybe another rotation. We'll see. Jacob Monk is also available in that equation. Mm-hmm. But Zach Tom is playing out of his mind right now, at least in my estimation, considering he missed most of the offseason program with the pec.
Right, and he wasn't full strength, full go right at the start of training camp either. There was a long ramp up period there for Zach Tom to get back to really being 100% full go. And what he's done these first 2 games has been remarkable. Yeah,
and then you look over at Rasheed Walker. There's some stuff to clean up there. Matt LaFleur said with some of the holding penalties lately, but I think Elton Jenkins as steady as they come, and Josh Myers, for as much as people are perseverating on the whole puking thing, Josh Myers has played some really good ball the last year and a half. And I just seeing him at the second level in that game against the Colts, to me, that's always the biggest difference maker for a center. You can get the block. He certainly has the size. But how do you get to the next level and get a hat on a linebacker? I thought Josh was exceptional at that. I thought Sean Ryan had some really good snaps in the run. He keyed one of the big runs that Josh Jacobs had. This defensive front that the Titans have is a problem. It's a different issue than what they saw against Indianapolis.
No question.
How you attack it, I think you just have to move forward.
Yeah, The Packers might have caught a little bit of a break last week with DeForest Buckner for the Colts not being 100% and then exiting the game. He wasn't 100% because of a back injury. Then he ended up exiting the game because of an ankle injury. As we mentioned, you're dealing with Simmons and Sweat in the middle there. This Packers offensive line, Rasheed Walker's had a couple holding penalties. Josh Myers has had a couple of the ineligible downfield penalties.
Yeah.
Those are certainly things that are fixable, that are correctable, and players who have made those corrections in the past. So I think this group, the injury to Jordan Morgan is certainly unfortunate, and you hope that hopefully he doesn't miss as much time now as he did during training camp. But I think this Packers offensive line really is coming together nicely. And when you have a leader like Elton Jenkins, and then a veteran like Josh Myers in the middle of everything, the coaches have talked about his leadership in that offensive line room along with Jenkins and those players. Myers hasn't been here forever, but he's played more than Sean Ryan, Rasheed Walker, and Zach Tom. I mean,
Yes.
he's the second longest tenured offensive lineman amongst those starters.
Jen Ward is sending me Instagram reels right now. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate that. Jim Albright, will Christian Watson break out? Yes. Christian Watson's breaking out in this game. Mike had to edit my inbox already for tomorrow. I went on a huge diatribe about Christian Watson. He is doing just fine. He is one big play waiting to happen. Christian Watson breaks out in this game, and we can revisit that 1 week from today on this show. Mr. Reverse, Will Levis can low-key move kind of fast. He can. I mean, he did not test, I don't think, in the 40, but I know I read some stuff saying that he probably is in the 4.7s, which is similar to where Jordan Love is at. He's doing that at 6'4", 230, 225 pounds, somewhere in that area.
He's not some kind of a
Big
statue.
dude.
Yeah, he's not some kind of a statue in the pocket by any means. He will take off and run.
Kevin Curry, when do you think Josh Jacobs will be utilized in the pass game more often? As soon as the Packers can open up the offense again. I mean, that was the one thing they needed Josh Jacobs in the backfield. Because here's the other thing. The looks that they developed last week out of the backfield, those had to go to Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed's back there. You're not going to have Josh Jacobs going out and running a wheel route while Jaden Reed stays back and pass pro.
Yeah.
It's just not the way this thing's going to go. Josh Jacobs, much like Christian Watson, much like all these guys on the offensive side of the ball, fulfilled his duties. When will that happen with the pass game? It's going to happen. We got to see where this offense can get.
Yeah, here's the thing, Wes. All right, there's Josh Jacobs, there's Emmanuel Wilson, there's Tucker Kraft, there's Luke Musgrave, there's Romeo Doubs, there's Christian Watson, there's Jaden Reed, and there's Dontavian Wicks. There are only so many snaps in a given football game. We can sit here and have these conversations every week about who didn't get the ball last week. Like, that's how this is going to go, right? I mean, so let's let the season
Did you say Bo Melton?
out. I actually didn't mention Bo Melton. I should have.
Melton.
Bo Melton. That would put me up to 9 fingers.
Malik
I
Heath's
think.
out there too. They have a lot of guys that catch
Malik,
football in this team.
yes. I mean, just guys to get the football in different ways, right? So there are only so many snaps in every football game.
Okay, I got to do some shopping, so we got to wrap this thing up here shortly. MJ on Facebook, X has 2 interceptions in his mini games, and the Titans can't help but turn over the ball. Do you see X with another on Sunday? This has kind of been sort of a joke in the locker room. 2 for 2, going 3 for 3. Either way, though, Mike, I mean, it kind of fits into the story I wrote today. The return on investment so far with Xavier McKinney. My goodness, what can you say about that?
Absolutely. I mean, a couple of things there. One, he's gotten each of those 2 interceptions early in the game in the first quarter of both games, which I think has been really big in terms of just the boost to the Packers defense and kind of setting a tone out there. The other thing I will say is that, he's had 2 basically overthrown footballs thrown right to him, and he's made the plays. How many times are we talking about the opportunities that get away when the other quarterback makes a mistake, throws the ball right to you, and then the defender doesn't catch it? Correct. Xavier McKinney has gotten 2 cracks, and he has cashed in on both of them. And if he continues to do that, this Packers defense is going to be something.
Stephen on Facebook, really quick, who's been your biggest surprise through 2 games? That's a putting you on the spot question. I can continue to talk if you want me to give you a moment to think. I will. Can I just say this?
Yeah.
And I don't want to turn it into a big diatribe. You can think of something else to say. But Malik Willis, on 19 days' notice, being able to function the way he did, but then in the second half, throw the football as well as he did. Finishing 12 of 14 for 122 yards and a touchdown with 6 carries for 41 yards, did everything you needed him to do in that game to be able to be successful. A lot of the other things that have happened with the Packers so far is what you would expect. Romeo Doubs has been as steady as it comes. Jaden Reed has been a revelation in terms of his playmaking, but we saw a lot of that last year.
Yeah, we saw the hints of
There's
it.
so much of what has gone into this thing so far this year. I don't know how many quote-unquote surprises there have been, other than the fact that, maybe you have these bevy of rookies that have come in, like Evan Williams, like Javon Bullard, that have pushed for playing time right out of the gate. But by and large,
I guess I would say my answer to that question, the biggest surprise, I would probably say Eric Wilson at linebacker.
Sure.
And
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
it's not a surprise in the sense that we saw how much he was playing in training camp, how much he was taking the snaps with the number 1 defense in training camp, and he always seemed to be around the ball.
Yes.
In training camp we
100%.
don't see the tackles, they don't tackle to the ground. Things don't play out the way they do in games, and so you're never quite sure exactly, okay, is that going to translate what we're seeing, during a training camp practice? In Eric Wilson's case, it has, and he showed in a very limited number of snaps what kind of impact he can have on this defense. And he is proving it's sort of like the longer he's in Green Bay, the more he's proving that yes, he's a big part of special teams, but he's not just a special teams specialist, right? That this guy can have an impact in other ways, and that to me has been a standout thing through the first couple games.
you do not get 120 tackles in the National Football League in Mike Zimmer's defense if you're not up to par in that regard. Okay, an interesting question here. We'll close on this before I get your final key to victory. Ray Gabes on Facebook, do you have any fall-inspired game day fit ideas? And then also, Haley Trina, nice name. Hi, Wes and Mike, big fan. My question for you guys is, do you have a favorite piece of Packers merch? Thanks, go Pack Go. It's funny you say that, Haley. I was actually running late for this because I was at the Green Bay Packers Pro Shop, and I actually picked up a few items. Mike, not for you, for me.
Okay.
It's all about me, Hollywood Hod. And look at this.
Hollywood Hod.
Got a brand new.
Oh my.
Isn't that nice?
Look
Got the
at
old
that.
G logo on there. This is not a paid actor. This came out of my budget. We actually got paid today too, so I think I'm gonna have to take an advance on the next one. And then here, I got my shirt for Nashville as well. Green Bay Packers.
You got your plaid.
Yeah. Isn't that nice?
Very nice. You wearing that at the pep rally tomorrow?
It's gonna be hot, but we'll see. Maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna
I'm
say,
definitely wearing that
you
on
might
the plane.
You might be a little warm.
Thank
be a
you
little warm with
to the
that.
Green Bay Packers Pro Shop for zapping my paychecks. But it's good stuff. I'm excited to add that to my collection. Michael, the Green Bay Packers are looking to go 2-1 to start the 2024 season.
They are.
They are going into a road environment, an interesting road environment. In addition to the fact it's going to be hot, they also switched over to field turf in Tennessee, which will be another thing they have to take into account.
I wasn't aware of that until people started talking about that this week. I didn't know that they
Keyshawn
had,
Nixon
that they
told
had-
me. I had no idea.
I didn't know. I mean, we've been there not for a lot of preseason games, but then a couple of
lot of
regular
rain.
season games. A lot of rain
Lot of
in
rain.
the preseason there. I didn't realize that they had changed their playing surface from the grass that they had to field turf. That was news to me.
How do the Packers win this game?
I think the biggest thing is they keep getting the turnovers. Will Levis has turned the ball over 5 times in 2 games, 3 interceptions, 2 lost fumbles. A lot of it, as I said before, trying to force the issue, trying to make plays happen that aren't there. The Packers need to continue to put him in those situations where he gets uncomfortable, and then try to take the football away. And I think Packers have had 3 takeaways each of the first 2 games. It was very unfortunate that they won the turnover battle +2 in Brazil, couldn't win the game. Yep. I think if you get another 3 takeaways in this game, I think you come out on top. Maybe you only need 2.
And honestly, only 2 if you can convert those into points.
Absolutely.
He's Mike Spofford. I'm Wes Hodkowitz. This was Packers Preview. We thank you so much for joining us. As always, please stay tuned to Packers.com and the Packers mobile app. Tons of content there from our wonderful video.
Doing this for Jen.
Oh, good. Mike's doing it again. I like this. Fantastic. Wait, what is this? Please don't. I don't know. People are blowing me up on things. Okay. Oh, Spoff. Oh, the Packers are undefeated with the hat backwards spot.
Well, there we go.
Mike, everybody's telling me that I need to ask you to do that, and here we go. You did it.
There we go.
So the Packers will look to stay undefeated. But I also need to promo our stuff because we got tons of content up on
Yeah,
Packers.com.
we do.
I wrote a series today on the Packers' defensive takeaways. Their 6 takeaways so far are the most they've had through 2 games since Dom Capers' first year as defensive coordinator in 2009, seeing if they can keep that going. Mike will have his one last look column tomorrow. Also a look on Packers.com right now at the Packers quarterback situation and what they're looking to achieve as Jordan Love looks to come back and Malik Willis looks to stay hot if he's called upon against his former team. Again, he's Mike, I'm Wes, and until next time, we'll see you later.